Alexandra Whitmore stood in the marble lobby of the Grand Metropolitan Hotel, adjusting her midnight blue evening gown for the third time in 5 minutes. The crystal chandeliers cast dancing shadows across the polished floors, and the sound of champagne glasses clinking drifted from the ballroom where her ex-fiancé Marcus was marrying the woman he had left her for 18 months ago. She checked her phone again. Where was he? 3 weeks earlier, Alexandra had received the elegant cream invitation with gold embossing that made her stomach turn. Marcus Blackwell and Catherine Pemberton were cordially inviting her to witness their union at the most exclusive venue in the city. The same venue where she and Marcus had once planned their own wedding. As CEO of Whitmore Industries, a tech company she had built from the ground up, Alexandra was accustomed to facing challenges head-on. But the thought of walking into that ballroom alone, facing the whispers and pitying glances from the very social circle that had once celebrated her engagement to Marcus, felt insurmountable. That's when she had remembered Jonathan Pierce. She had met him at her local coffee shop 3 months ago. He was there every morning at 7, laptop open, working while his 4-year-old daughter Lucy colored quietly beside him. The barista had mentioned he was a freelance graphic designer, taking on any project he could find to make ends meet as a single father. Jonathan was different from the men in her usual circles. His clothes were clean but clearly not expensive. His laptop was several years old, and he drove a modest sedan that had seen better days. But there was something about the gentle way he spoke to Lucy, the patience he showed when she interrupted his work to show him her drawings, that had caught Alexandra's attention. When desperation had finally overcome her pride, she had approached him with what seemed like a mutually beneficial proposition. He would accompany her to Marcus's wedding as her date, and in return she would pay him enough to cover Lucy's preschool tuition for the entire year. Now, as Alexandra waited in the hotel lobby, she wondered if she had made a terrible mistake. "Ms. Whitmore?" She turned to see Jonathan approaching, and for a moment she barely recognized him. Gone were the casual jeans and worn sweaters she was accustomed to seeing. Instead, he wore a perfectly tailored midnight blue tuxedo that complemented her dress beautifully. His dark hair was styled elegantly, and despite the obvious quality of his formal wear, he moved with the same quiet confidence she had observed in the coffee shop. "Jonathan," she breathed, genuinely surprised. "You look incredible. That tuxedo is beautiful." A slight flush colored his cheeks. "Thank you. I wanted to make sure I wouldn't embarrass you tonight. I know how important this is." What Alexandra didn't know was that Jonathan had spent his last $300 renting the tuxedo, telling the shop owner he was attending the most important event of his life, in a way that wasn't entirely untrue. "You could never embarrass me," Alexandra said softly, then caught herself. This was a business arrangement, nothing more. "Shall we go in?" As they walked toward the ballroom, Jonathan offered his arm with natural gallantry. "Before we go in there, I want you to know something. Whatever happened between you and this Marcus fellow, his loss is immeasurable. Any man who would let you go is a fool." Alexandra felt an unexpected warmth spread through her chest. In her world of corporate negotiations and strategic partnerships, such genuine, unguarded kindness was rare. The ballroom was a vision of white roses and gold accents, filled with the city's elite in their finest attire. Alexandra had attended dozens of events like this, but tonight felt different with Jonathan at her side. He seemed genuinely interested in the people they met, asking thoughtful questions and listening intently to their answers, rather than simply networking or posturing. "Alexandra!" The voice belonged to Vivian Ashford, one of her former social circle and Marcus's cousin. "How wonderful to see you here." "And who is this handsome gentleman?" "Vivian, I'd like you to meet Jonathan Pierce," Alexandra said smoothly. "Jonathan, this is Vivian Ashford." "It's a pleasure to meet you," Jonathan said, shaking Vivian's hand with genuine warmth. "Alexandra has told me so much about her friends." "And what do you do, Jonathan?" Vivian asked, her tone carrying the subtle probe that Alexandra knew well. "I'm a graphic designer," Jonathan replied without embarrassment. "I work primarily with small businesses and nonprofits, helping them tell their stories through visual design." "How fascinating," Vivian said, though her expression suggested otherwise. And how did you and Alexandra meet? At a coffee shop, Jonathan answered honestly. Alexandra was kind enough to help Lucy, my daughter, when she dropped her coloring book. We've been friends ever since. As Vivian excused herself to mingle elsewhere, Alexandra realized that Jonathan had just done something remarkable. He had been completely authentic without shame or pretense. In her world, such honesty was almost revolutionary. The evening continued with dinner and dancing. Jonathan proved to be an excellent dance partner, leading her gracefully across the floor during the slower songs and making her laugh during the more upbeat numbers. It had been months since Alexandra had laughed so freely. "You're full of surprises," she said, as they swayed to a gentle ballad. "Where did you learn to dance like this?" Jonathan's expression grew thoughtful. "My wife, Sarah, insisted we take lessons before our wedding. She said she wanted to feel like a princess for at least one song." His voice carried a note of sadness that Alexandra hadn't heard before. "Your wife?" Alexandra asked gently. She had assumed he was divorced. "She passed away 2 years ago," Jonathan said quietly. "Cancer. Lucy barely remembers her, which breaks my heart in a way I can't describe." Alexandra felt something shift inside her chest, a compassion so profound it nearly took her breath away. "Jonathan, I'm so sorry. I had no idea." "It's all right," he said, his voice steady despite the pain in his eyes. "Sarah made me promise to keep living, to keep dancing, to show Lucy that life is still beautiful even when it's broken." As the song ended, Alexandra found herself looking at Jonathan with entirely new eyes. This wasn't just a struggling single father she had hired for the evening. This was a man who had faced unimaginable loss and chosen love over bitterness, hope over despair. The moment was interrupted by the familiar voice she had been dreading all evening. "Alexandra, you look stunning as always." She turned to face Marcus Blackwell, resplendent in his custom tuxedo, his new wife, Catherine, glowing beside him in her designer wedding gown. Catherine was everything Alexandra was not, soft where Alexandra was strong, dependent where Alexandra was independent, traditional where Alexandra was innovative. "Marcus, Catherine," Alexandra said with practiced composure, "congratulations on your marriage." "Thank you," Catherine said sweetly. "Your dress is absolutely gorgeous. And this must be your date?" "Jonathan Pierce," he said, extending his hand to Marcus with the same genuine warmth he had shown everyone else that evening. Marcus shook his hand with a grip that was perhaps a bit too firm, a subtle power play that Jonathan either didn't notice or chose to ignore. "So, Jonathan, what do you do?" "I'm a graphic designer and a full-time father," Jonathan replied proudly. "My daughter Lucy is the light of my life." "How charming," Marcus said with barely concealed condescension. "And how did you meet our Alexandra here?" The possessive "our" in reference to Alexandra made Jonathan's jaw tighten almost imperceptibly, but his voice remained pleasant. "Actually, Alexandra helped my daughter when she needed it most. She showed kindness to a 4-year-old who was having a difficult day, and that told me everything I needed to know about her character." "Character," Marcus repeated with a slight smirk. "Yes, Alexandra has always been very principled, sometimes to a fault." "I consider her principles to be her greatest strength," Jonathan said evenly. "The world needs more people who choose integrity over convenience." The subtle rebuke was delivered so gently that Marcus almost missed it, but Alexandra caught every word. She had never heard anyone defend her so eloquently or with such quiet conviction. As Marcus and Catherine moved on to greet other guests, Alexandra felt tears prick her eyes. "Jonathan, you didn't have to—" "Yes, I did," he said firmly. "Alexandra, I may not move in your social circles, and I may not have much money, but I know quality when I see it. That man gave up something precious, and he doesn't even realize it." Later that evening, as they stood on the hotel's terrace overlooking the city lights, Alexandra found herself sharing things she had never told anyone. She spoke about the pressure of running a company, the loneliness of always being the smartest person in the room, and the way Marcus had made her feel like her ambition was something to be ashamed of, rather than celebrated. "He used to say I cared more about quarterly reports than I did about our relationship," she confided. "Maybe he was right. Were you happy? Jonathan asked simply. I thought I was, Alexandra replied. But looking back, I think I was just comfortable. There's a difference. There certainly is, Jonathan agreed. Comfort is settling for what you think you deserve. Happiness is discovering you deserve more than you ever imagined. As the evening drew to a close, they found themselves in Alexandra's car, driving slowly through the quiet city streets. Neither seemed eager for the night to end. Jonathan, Alexandra said finally, there's something I need to tell you. Tonight wasn't really about showing up Marcus or saving face in front of my old friends. Oh? Jonathan turned to look at her, his expression curious rather than concerned. I've been watching you at the coffee shop for months, she admitted. The way you are with Lucy, the way you treat everyone with such kindness regardless of their status or importance. You've reminded me of who I used to be before I became so focused on proving myself in a world that didn't want me. Jonathan was quiet for a long moment. Alexandra, can I tell you something that might sound presumptuous? She nodded. I didn't take this job just for the money, he said softly. I took it because I've been watching you too. Every morning, you come into that coffee shop looking like you're carrying the weight of the world. But you always have a smile for Lucy when she waves at you. You tip the baristas generously, you say please and thank you. And you treat the homeless man outside with the same respect you show everyone else. Alexandra pulled over to the side of the road, her hands trembling slightly on the steering wheel. The truth is, Jonathan continued, I've been falling for you since the first day I saw you help an elderly woman carry her coffee to her table. Tonight just confirmed what I already knew. You're the most remarkable woman I've ever met. Alexandra turned to face him, tears flowing freely now. Jonathan, I have to tell you something. I ran a background check on you before I asked you to be my date. Jonathan's expression didn't change, but he waited for her to continue. I know about your wife's medical bills. I know you've been working 3 jobs to pay them off while caring for Lucy. I know you gave up your position at a prestigious design firm to be with Sarah during her illness, and that you've been rebuilding your career from scratch ever since. She took a shaky breath. But what I found out tonight, what I couldn't have learned from any background check, is that you're the most honorable man I've ever met. You've been through hell. And somehow you've emerged with your kindness intact, your integrity unshaken, and your capacity for love stronger than ever. Jonathan reached over and gently wiped a tear from her cheek. Alexandra, what are you saying? I'm saying that what happened tonight wasn't about Marcus or revenge or proving anything to anyone else. It was about me discovering that I've been looking for love in all the wrong places, when the right person has been sitting across from me every morning for months. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the city lights twinkling around them like stars. What happens now? Jonathan asked softly. Alexandra smiled through her tears. Now we stop pretending this is just a business arrangement. Now we see if a CEO and a graphic designer can build something real together. Now we find out if Lucy might like to have coffee with both of us tomorrow morning. 6 months later, Alexandra stood in the same coffee shop where it all began, watching Jonathan help Lucy with her math homework while simultaneously reviewing proofs for his latest client project. His business had grown significantly since Alexandra had started referring corporate contacts to him. But more importantly, he had never lost the gentle presence that had first captured her heart. Daddy, when is Alexandra going to marry us? Lucy asked suddenly, causing Alexandra to nearly spill her latte. Jonathan looked up with a grin. Lucy, that's not how marriage works. But you love her and she loves us, Lucy stated matter-of-factly. And she makes really good pancakes. Alexandra laughed, realizing that sometimes the most profound truths come from the mouths of 4-year-old. She had found her family in the most unexpected place with the most unexpected people, and she had never been happier. As she looked at Jonathan and Lucy, she thought about Marcus's wedding and how grateful she was now for that painful invitation. Sometimes the worst moments of our lives lead us exactly where we need to be. The truth was, she had been in tears that night, not because of what she had lost, but because of what she had found. A man who valued her heart as much as her mind, a child who had taught her that love multiplies rather than divides. and a future that was built on authenticity rather than appearances. And in the end, that was worth more than all the business success in the world. If this story touched your heart, please give it a like and share it with someone who needs to hear that real love often comes when we least expect it. Subscribe for more heartwarming stories about finding hope in unexpected places. And let us know in the comments about a time when something that seemed like a setback led you to something wonderful. Your story might inspire someone else who needs hope today.